It's been 2 years since Hoka last updated the Mach, and in that time, the running world has taken off in terms of the foams that we've seen in our daily trainers. So when it became time to update one of Hoka's most exciting shoes, Hoka gave us the same foam? Now, I know that a shoe is more than just what the foam is made of, but even I'm wondering, will this same supercritical EVA be enough for Hoka to keep up in 2026? It's time to lace up the Mach 7 and take it for a ride. Yo, what's going on? My name is Kofuzi and I'm a non-elite runner who reviews running shoes here on YouTube, and today I want to talk to you guys about the Hoka Mach 7. But before I give you my thoughts on this shoe, I do want to go over some disclosures. This is a pair of shoes that was sent to me for the purpose of review, so I did not have to pay for these shoes. However, nobody's paying me to make this video or to include their brand in this video, and no one's going to get a chance to preview any of my footage or my thoughts before you guys get a chance to see this video on YouTube. So with that disclosure out of the way, let's talk about the Mach 7, and let's start with the specs. This is a 37mm stack height shoe with a 5mm drop, giving us 32mm of stack height in the forefoot, which is the same general setup that we saw last year. And the foam that's in this shoe is also the same foam that we saw last year, supercritical EVA. I do think that there is a difference in the geometry between these two shoes from last year to this year. In this year's version, while it does have a rocker, in other words, that curl at the front of the shoe that makes it easier to wrangle a tall stack height of foam, I think that the rocker starts a little bit later in this year than it did last year. Now, when it comes to protecting this foam, we have a similar outsole pattern that we saw last year. We've got a sticky rubber in the front, which gives us more grip, and then in the back, to give us more durability, there is a Durabrasion rubber. On the upper, they've gone to a Creel jacquard mesh in order to save weight. It's a very breathable material, but also is very strong. The tongue has very little padding, almost no padding in it, which tells you that this is a shoe that's meant to be running a little bit faster. And then there is a light amount of padding all through the heel cup and into the Achilles flare. There is a little bit of structure back here, but it's nothing too crazy, just enough to give some structure to that heel cup for your heel to have a place to sit inside. As far as fit goes, I went with my usual running shoe size in both last year and this year's version. I think this year's version fits a little bit more snug, nothing to really complain about. And while I do find that with Hoka, I sometimes do prefer to size up or go with my regular running shoe size, I do feel like this shoe is something that most people can go with their regular running shoe size on. Now, when it comes to overall weight of the shoe, Hoka is reporting theirs in a US men's size 10. They've been doing that for a little while now, but reference size is US men's size 9, and that's what I happen to be. So when I weighed my shoe, mine came in at a measured weight of 7.7 ounces or 218 grams, the same weight as last year. Now that we talked about what the shoe is like on paper, let's talk about what it's like on the road. It's been a little while since I ran in the Mach 6, but running in the Mach 7 feels pretty much exactly what I remember the Mach 6 feeling like. Now, I really enjoyed the Mach 6. It was a lightweight shoe, very nimble, very fun to run in. And there was a speediness to it, like you could do some workouts in it if you needed to. And I'm getting a lot of the same things with the Mach 7, but I'm getting it in kind of a dated kind of way. In the interim between when the Mach 6 came out and the Mach 7 came out, we've now become really accustomed in the running world to seeing things like Lightstrike Pro being used in a daily trainer, PIBA or PIBA blends being used in daily trainers. We've seen aliphatic TPU get put into daily trainers, all with great amounts of success. Not every one of those shoes that has those combinations or any of those materials in it is necessarily excellent, but a lot of them have been really good and really fun to run in. And I don't think necessarily that just because a shoe is supercritical EVA, it can't be good. There are some shoes that I've been running in that are supercritical EVA that are fun, but I feel like the way that they haven't changed anything in the Mach 7 has me really wondering, like, what did we wait 2 years for? What is the update on this shoe at all? Now, there's 37mm stack height in this shoe, which is a tall amount of stack height to have in the heel, but with the supercritical EVA foam in 2026 now, it just feels like it's compressing maybe a little bit too quickly for me, so I'm not getting quite as much shock absorption as I'd want from it. And at the same time, on the other end of the compression decompression, it's cycle, I feel like it's not popping me out of the compression quick enough. The decompression isn't quite snappy enough for how much I'm squishing this foam. So it just leaves me the sense that it's not as soft as I want it to be, and it also doesn't have as much pop as I want for a shoe that has as many good memories for me as the Mach 5 and the Mach 6 do. When I ran in it for an easy run, I felt like it was okay. It was a good shoe, maybe a little bit on the underwhelming side. And it did get a little bit more interesting and fun for me as I picked up the pace into a steady run. But I also at the same time feel like that run was a little bit harder on me and harder on my body than I've been used to lately. So again, it felt good, but underwhelming. I really wanted something more out of it for the update to the Mach. Now let's go over the buying guide, and we'll also discuss some alternatives. The Hoka Mach 7 is a lightweight daily trainer that is best suited for midfoot strikers who want a no-nonsense shoe that could do a little bit of everything. The ideal runner for this shoe is someone who doesn't love the direction that shoes are going in terms of stack heights and foams and materials, and want a shoe that is lightweight and a little bit of a throwback. This shoe is going to retail for $145, which is $5 more than it was last version, and I think we know exactly who we have to thank for that little price increase. And for pretty much everyone, I think that I'm going to recommend, if you're interested in the Mach 7, go and get discounted versions of the Mach 6 first, because the two shoes are exceedingly similar, and you can find some pairs as low as $100. Now, there are some other shoes within the Hoka lineup that you might have questions about if you are looking at the Mach. And I think the first one that we have to look at is the one that is the X version of the Mach, and this is the Mach X3. Now, some people call this the faster Mach, but the Mach is already kind of a speedy shoe. And some people call this the plated Mach. And I don't really think that if you want a Mach, but you want it with more plate or more technology, that the Mach X3 is necessarily what you're looking for. Now, while there is a layer of PIBA in this, so there's PIBA and EVA, which is something that on paper looks nice, and while there is a plate in it, which again on paper seems nice, it is a winged plate, which typically means it's there more for stability and not so much for propulsion or springiness. And I do think that the ratio of really nice PIBA and the EVA is not so great, and there's a little bit too much EVA in it. I also think there's really high sidewalls on the shoe, and the upper doesn't look like it's designed for speedier running. In other words, there's more padding in the tongue. It feels like there's a little bit more padding in the heel cup as well. So that tells me it's meant for maybe having this on for a longer period of time. So the way that I might look at it is that it's maybe the long run version of the Mach, maybe a grand touring version, if you will. But realistically, when I run in it, the sensation that I get from this shoe, which is a lot heavier than the Mach, is that it's a stability Mach. But if you're running in the Mach and you kind of like it, but you need way more motion control in the heel, the Mach X3 is the shoe that you want to be in. And so I don't think of these shoes as one is fast, the other is faster. I think that this is the shoe for neutral runners, and the Mach X3 is the one for stability runners. That shoe also costs $190, so you're paying quite a bit of a premium to get there, and I really don't recommend that shoe unless someone is looking for a stability daily trainer or a stability tempo shoe. Now, there's one other shoe in the lineup that I think a lot of you are going to ask about, or I've in the past received a lot of questions about in the Hoka lineup, and that's the Clifton. This is Clifton version 10. This is another daily trainer using supercritical EVA. So what's the deal? Why are there two of these in the Hoka lineup? But the way that I would pick between these two shoes is if you want a speedier, more nimble daily trainer, go with the Mach. If you want something that's a little bit more chill and relaxed, go with the Clifton. It's got a much wider footprint, so it has some stability to it, even though it doesn't have stabilizing elements like the Mach X3 does. And it has a lot more puffiness and padding all throughout the tongue and heel cup, which tells me that this is designed for some more relaxed running and run walking. The Clifton retails for $155, which also has experienced a tariff price increase. But since it's been out for a little while, you can find it for $125 in some colorways. So if you're just looking for a daily trainer from Hoka, that's probably where I'd have you start, or take a look at that discounted Mach 6. Now, let's take a look at what some of the competition is doing and kind of what I mean by I really wish that there were some updates to the foam in the Mach 7. And the first shoe that I want to talk about comes from Puma, and this is the Velocity Nitro 4. And I feel like in a lot of ways, The velocity is giving me what I wanted the Mach 7 to be. Now this is a 10mm drop shoe, which I think could be off-putting for a lot of people who enjoy the 5mm drop of Hoka, but I will say that you have to be careful when you're looking at heel drops when you're talking across foam types. And the foam type that's in here is aliphatic TPU. Now, aliphatic TPU is one of my favorite foams and my favorite buzzwords to see in running shoes lately. I love it in race shoes. I love it in daily training applications. Generally, I get really excited when I see it on the spec sheet, and that's what the Velocity Nitro 4 has. When I run in this shoe, I'm feeling a good amount of resistance when my foot hits the ground, so it gives me a controlled sense of cushion, but ATPU is also really bouncy, so I get a lot of pop as I'm pushing off. And so this is a shoe that I can take for really easy runs, just some time on feet runs, but it's also something that I could take for workouts. And so it's one of those speedier daily trainers, just like I would categorize, or I guess subcategorize, the Mach 7. And this shoe comes in at $140, so $5 cheaper than the Mach 7. It has updated materials, it has the experience that I'm looking for in 2026. And I'd say between these two shoes, if you're looking for that speedy daily trainer option that can do some workouts, I'd pick the Velocity over the Mach. And then the other shoe that I think we need to talk about comes from Brooks, and this is the Hyperion 3. Now this is a shoe that underwent a huge transformation from version 2 to version 3, and in version 3 it became much more daily training oriented, whereas in the previous version it was a tempo/workout shoe. So it also sits in that speedy daily trainer space. But they are using a nitro foam in this shoe, which nitro foam technology has been around for a long time, and it's a subcategory of supercritical foams. Nitro foams are just supercritical foams that use nitrogen gas as part of the process. And the way that they've tweaked this foam in the Hyperion 3 makes it feel really comfy, especially if you're a heel striker, for those daily training runs, but there is enough energy in the front of this shoe to make it exciting for some workouts as well. Now this shoe has an 8mm drop, so again, if you are dogmatic about needing a 5mm drop shoe, this maybe isn't for you, but maybe it's more of an option than the Velocity was. And I'll say that there is a little bit too much padding in the heel cup here, and the knit that they use on the tongue is a little bit too hot for something that I want to use for a lot of workouts. But for a speedy daily trainer, when I'm looking at these two, I'd pick the Hyperion 3 over the Mach 7. It just feels much more updated. It feels like something I want to run in 2026. And that shoe also comes in at a price of $140, so again, $5 cheaper than we're getting in the Mach. So those are my thoughts of the Mach 7. Let me know if you have any questions about this shoe or any of the shoes that I talked about today, or better yet, stop by the live stream that I do Mondays and Thursdays over on the Kofuzi Run Clip channel. I'd love to see you guys over there in the chat. That's all I have for today, everybody. Thanks so much for making it all the way to the end of this video. Hopefully you guys are staying safe out there on your runs, and I will see you in the next one.
Yo, what's going on?